Hey, Previews World. Troy Jeffrey Allen here at San Diego Comic-Con. I'm sitting next to Justin Giampaoli and Matt Taylor. They are half, I want to say, of the creative team behind Rome West, which is from Dark Horse Comics. And we're going to talk to them a little bit about this project, this alternate history of America, which I got a chance to read earlier today. It was really interesting. It starts off in 323 AD, I want to say. And pretty much the Romans come to what they think is like Atlantis, I think, at some point. They encounter what are indigenous people, but in actuality is America. And like from there, like the entire history of the United States changes. And so I just want to talk to you a little bit about, like, first of all, what was the seed for this idea? What kicked that off?
Yeah, the seed for the idea really started with me reading a bunch of articles about Roman artifacts being found in the Americas. Pouches of Roman coins in the Ohio River Valley, things in California, up in Canada. And Brian and I really sat back and tried to figure out a story that would explain all of that. And so we wanted to avoid a typical situation where the Romans come over and kind of eradicate Native Americans, because that wouldn't really deviate from Western colonialism very much. So we went out of our way to find reasons why Native Americans and Romans could coexist and create a hybrid civilization. Things like similar beliefs about life and death, what happens after death, polytheistic cultures, and just being able to kind of welcome outsiders into their tribe, if you will. Kind of took it from there.
No, I think it's really interesting because it's like it's a cooperative society, right? That's like how it's kind of branded. Like, you know, it kind of like really does take a whole different approach. And then we get into the Vikings, and then like we keep moving forward in time and history. So Matt, I wanted to ask you, what is your involvement in this, and how did you get involved?
I did the cover for the trade paperback edition, and well, what will become the trade paperback edition. I'd worked with Spencer, who was the editor, on Brian's other book, Rebels, so I was doing covers for that. And just as I was wrapping up that, he came to me and said, "We've got another book. We want it to feel more kind of like a bookstore release." He wanted a kind of cover that didn't necessarily feel like a kind of comic cover, but something that could sit in. Do you still have Barnes & Noble? Is that still a thing?
Yes, we
do.
Barely,
so
but we do.
Yeah, something that could sit in Barnes & Noble and in a comic shop as well. So he approached me, and we had quite a good working relationship already, and he kind of he gave me the book to read, and then kind of suggested a few ideas as to how we could try and encapsulate the whole story in a single image, which for a trade is even harder, because single issues, you'll have kind of one or two defining moments that you want to capture from the issue you want to try and represent. But when it's the whole series, it's trying to find something that encapsulates all of that. It's tougher, but it's kind of more rewarding if you get it right.
All right, so the book was originally released on Stella, which was a digital app. This is the first time it's in print. Okay, now what was the translation process from Stella to Dark Horse like? What was that relationship with Brian Wood, I should point out, who was your co-writer? What was that relationship like?
Well, Brian and I have known each other about 10 years now, a little over, and I started in comics as a critic, kind of transitioned to some editorial work, and then ultimately co-writing with him. Brian's just a great person to learn from. I mean, he creates these really multifaceted characters. There's always been a real common thread of identity in his work that I kind of gravitate toward. So he was a great person to learn from, not only just how to craft a script and hammer it out, but even how to deal with editors and artists and how to read a contract, things more on the business side of the equation. So it was just a great opportunity for me kind of coming into that part of the industry. In terms of adapting it from Stela, that really began the minute we began writing it at Stela, because we knew ultimately one day we wanted to get it in print. So the challenge for us was, how do we write panel descriptions that are going to work in a digital app that scrolls vertically, but then ultimately work on the printed page. And essentially what that meant is that every single page was going to be 4 Kirby panels. So we had to write with that in mind, knowing that whatever we did on the app also had to work in print. Bringing it to Dark Horse was great. We had an opportunity to get it reformatted, relettered, recolored, and have Matt come on as the cover artist, which was phenomenal. Matt's work, I think, just has a warmth and a depth to it that, for my money, if I was going to put my critical hat on again, I'd say kind of transcends the world of comic art and is fine art. So there was really no one else that was on our list other than Matt. He was our first choice, so we're really happy to have him.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's all you can say after that, right?
It is.
That's
it
a
is,
glowing,
yeah.
glowing comment.
It's always nice to hear that people enjoy your work.
Yeah.
It's like when you're an artist, you spend your whole time sitting essentially in like a dark studio on your own, not really interacting with the outside world that much. So, you know, when you actually get feedback from people in real life who say we like your work, it's a very satisfying feeling. It makes it feel like it's all worthwhile.
Yeah. Well, no, I'll co-sign that. It's a gorgeous cover. Well, one thing we didn't talk about is Andrea, your artist, and like you two came into this together. That's where the original digital version of this came from. Like, how did that start? Like, what was that collaboration like?
Well, Andrea had worked with Brian on Rebels here at Dark Horse, which Matt also did the covers for primarily. Andrea is just a wonderful collaborator. He's an endless ball of energy. He's always willing to, redo a page, do thumbnails, redesign characters. What I like about his work is he just crams so much detail into the panels, and he still works primarily traditionally with pen and ink. He's not working digitally, so he has this willingness to kind of dirty up his page with little flecks of ink in a way that I think a lot of artists are afraid to do, and that grit and texture just really comes through in the finished product. And he's also a history nut, so this was a perfect project for him. Yeah,
that's cool. Like, so Dark Horse Comics, Rome West, it's out now. I think it dropped like July 4th, I believe.
Actually,
Yesterday. Okay, got you. Okay, so you can pick it up now. You can pick it up at your local comic shop. This is Troy Allen. Thank you very much, guys. Justin, Matt.
Hey Previews World, would you like to win a copy of next month's Previews catalog? Comment below with what comic you're reading right now, and one lucky winner will receive a free copy of the upcoming Previews catalog.